You've probably heard about virus files. You click a link or download something to your computer and you wake up with an empty bank account. Last year there was a case like this. Infected PDFs were going around online. They looked like normal documents, but when you open them, silent scripts would start running and steal data. So it's no surprise that when an official government warning shows up, "Don't open this, it's a virus," a lot of us would think it's smart to just leave it alone. But in November 2025, something weird happened. A document starts circulating online, an 88-page PDF, and the police publish a statement saying it's dangerous and you must not open it. If you got this, delete it and report to us immediately who sent it to you. Was this really about safety? Or did someone simply not want people to read what was inside? To understand it, let's go back to the beginning of 2025. And I'm warning you, this is not an episode to watch during dinner. A video appears online titled Rehearsal. At first it's only available if you pay. It gets shared on forums for people who like extreme content. But as always online, someone leaks it further. Videos even shows on YouTube and Facebook. More and more people start watching it. In the frame we see two men. One of them is wearing a mask. Behind them are metal lockers, and next to the camera there is a wooden block. You don't know what this is yet, but you can feel you shouldn't be watching. The masked man starts unbuttoning the other man's shirt. The man shows his face, he doesn't hide it anyway. He looks straight into the camera like he's making sure it's recording. He put his head on the wooden block and waits. Then a meat cleaver comes into view. The masked man picks it up and starts making motion like he's counting down before a strike. Suddenly, he swings hard, hits fast, and stops just a few centimeters from the man's neck. The masked man puts the cleaver down, they hug. End of the video. How does that sound? Someone was selling the video like this. The whole thing doesn't look like a kidnapping. There are too many mixed signals. Sure, the man waiting to be beheaded could have been dragged, but nothing actually happened. People paid and they got a disturbing little scene. Some viewers may thought it was just acting for money. To watch it, you had to buy access in closed groups. The entry ticket cost between $12 and $28, but Rehearsal wasn't all the viewers receive. In the basic package, there were 2 more videos, and those next ones were no longer Rehearsal. Comment starts appearing. Maybe it's AI, maybe it's special effects. The later videos are shown from several cameras. A close-up on the face, a wider shot showing the whole body, a close-up of the neck. Viewers start to believe these materials are real. What they saw wasn't staged. They had just watched the moment a real crime was committed. The video leaks outside paid sites and hundreds of thousands of people watch it worldwide. Months passed and in normal media there is silence. There is no statement that anyone is working on the case. You don't hear about search for the man from the video, but we saw his face clearly. The full package included 11 videos and 98 photos. Since the 1970s, stories have circulated about so-called snuff films. These are recordings made for entertainment of wealthy viewers. Most often people talked about women, especially from poorer regions. By definition in these materials, besides the crime, there is also a sexual element. Is there any proof that films like this are really being made? There was a horror movie titled Snuff. Its marketing used those stories and it was advertised as a really film from that category. People started panicking, but that horror movie was pure fiction, no one died. For over 30 years, law enforcement said that it had found only one potential case like that. It was a film showing a man in mask and woman. She was killed after an intimate scene. Rumors said a client paid $5,000 for that recording, but police never caught anyone. The media called snuff films a myth until 2025. These films made by 2 men had a sexual element too. It fit the definition. This is the moment when you think it can't get any worse. I mean, what could be worse than seeing a naked man being killed, showing a different close-ups? And then it gets even more terrifying. In the next video, you see a carefully separated body parts being washed and placed in bowls. One by one, They go into a pot with vegetables and herbs. The shot ends by showing finished dish. Can you imagine this situation? The internet is buzzing about the leak, platforms remove the content, people keep uploading it again, and the police don't look for the killer and don't even try to find out who the victim was. This case could have just stayed online as horrifying curiosity, but then online detectives show up. People analyze every second, frame by frame. They share their observation in groups. They analyze what you can hear in the background, what things look like in the frame, and then try to figure out who the masked man is. When so many people try to help at the same time, it's easy for chaos. But first, they all join forces to figure out where it happened. In these recordings, you can hear people walking behind the building's wall and car passing by. Normal life is going on. One person in the group wrote that they recognized the tiles in the room. They had seen them in a specific construction supply wholesalers in Vietnam. That sounds almost ridiculous. There are countless wholesalers in the world. In another frame, a bottle of mineral water flashes by. They managed to read the label. It was from Vietnam. In the rehearsal recording, you can hear a short conversation. Vietnamese people in the online investigation group recognized the language and distinctive accent, typical for people from central Vietnam or the north. And that's when a breakthrough happens. The layouts of the rooms together with the decor matches government buildings in northern Vietnam. Is that the real reason a police stays silent? Are they hiding the masked man? After narrowing search area, people try to figure out who the victim was. No one recognized him. They start searching online forums. On one of them, a user appears who claims they knew the victim and killer. They said the victim worked as a fish seller at market in Hanoi. They gave the masked man's first name also, but nothing else. That's still not enough and we still don't know if it's true. The group keep digging through more and more niche forums, and after what they found, an unusual question comes up. Can we still call the man who died a victim? People have different fantasies. Psychologists say most healthy people have strange, sometimes very disturbing thoughts. It's not like we talk about them over tea. Most of them stay in your imagination and after a few days you don't even remember them. When I say fantasies, you probably think of something like a plumber visit a lonely woman, she's stuck in a washing machine and that kind of thing. As you can guess, the level of these fantasies ruins any nice association with that word. Some people feel strong desire to be eaten by someone. It's meant to symbolize total submission. But even people who have this fantasy and have it for a long time don't want to carry it out. They keep it in their head. It helps them manage emotion in some way. And maybe let's not go deeper than that. The man we saw in the video was looking on extreme content forums for someone to fulfill his fantasies. He'd been doing it for at least 5 years. He used the username that beheading. The first part could mean a date like a calendar date or a date like a meetup. The second part literally means beheading. He asked someone to translate into Vietnamese manga with a similar scenario to what happened. In one post, he even shared his phone number. It's not like that shocked anyone there. Whole communities had similar desires. But apparently, the man we saw took it one step further. The group started searching that phone number online. They found out it was registered on a popular Vietnamese messaging app. They opened the profile and it showed a first name, last name, date of birth and where he was from. Profile photo identical to the one from the video. And yes, this man really worked at a fish market. That was the moment when everything fit. They took the next step. With those details, they found his Facebook account. His last post said, "From today, I'm logging out of this account for good." But something didn't add up. Posted on June 10, 2025? We saw in the video that this man died half a year earlier. Someone in the group called the village head from his home village. Only then did they consider the identification fully certain. The village head confirmed he knew the man. He left after his father died. His mother lives in a very poor house. She is ill and she hasn't seen her son for 10 years. He stopped contacting her. And when the group tried to recover password for the accounts they found, the reset notifications were being sent to an Oppo Reno 12 phone. So the question remains, who was the perpetrator? Someone paused the video at the moment the masked man lifted the meat cleaver. They noticed a tattoo, 13-9, and the words, that day. It sounds like a date. What does it mean? A birthday? Anniversary? It was the only symbol they could link to the perpetrator, but they still didn't know anything else about him. The group went back to digging through the internet. Who had that beheading been talking to? On one forum, user appeared and wrote that he confessed that he committed the crime. Everyone chased that lead. Maybe his conscience finally hit him, or maybe he felt the internet would reach him anyway, so he wanted to confess first. But it turned out to be a waste of time. It was an online troll looking for attention, not the really perpetrator. Early on, there was also lead that maybe a female executioner was involved. Some users speculated there were more perpetrators in the videos, or that other victims were visible. None of that was confirmed. They searched Facebook for men in Vietnam with 13-9 tattoo. They did find a few, also in northern Vietnam. Innocent people were accused online of being perpetrator. Only by comparing other features of the masked man from the video did they finally rule them out. Later, members of the group wrote that they might have unintentionally harmed innocent people. Their methods weren't perfect. That's a dark side of online investigation, but despite mistakes and chaos, they solved a case where the police did nothing for 10 months. Finally, in late October and early November, there was a breakthrough. There was one account that followed the man who died on every platform. And when someone in the group tried to reset the password for that account, the verification was sent to an Oppo Reno 12. Does that mean this person also had access to the accounts of the man who died? Was it him who wrote that post in June? They managed to get in touch with the person behind that account. One of the online detectives wrote that he had the same fantasy as in the video he watched, that he was interested in it too. The perpetrator took the bait. He even suggested meeting in person. The group also found connected TikTok account. There's an old video. Man films himself at work. The office looked exactly the same like a background from the first video. Same metal lockers, same tile pattern, even the plants match. I think we've got him. They made a map of every visible mark and scar on the masked man, including that tattoo. In November, an anonymous person publishes an 88-page PDF. Inside is the full identification of the victim and perpetrator, the full reasoning process, a map with marked location and a detailed timeline. Within 48 hours, the document is translated into English and shared widely online. So, what does the police do? Before this crime at the end of 2024, the Vietnamese government introduced Decree 147. Since then, every social media user has to pass identity verification. It doesn't matter if the platform is local or foreign. The authorities can decide which content is illegal, and it has to be removed within 24 hours. On May 21, 2025, Telegram is blocked. The official version, the platform didn't comply with local rules. The authorities claimed most users were involved in illegal activity. The police also said there were groups sharing anti-government materials. Facebook, at the request of Vietnamese government, starts blocking and removing pages of people who speak negatively about the authorities. Not individual posts, entire pages, if someone wrote something wrong. A YouTuber with 120,000 subscribers who spoke negatively about the government was sentenced to 12 years in prison. A lawyer who criticized the country's top judge in Facebook post got 3 years in prison. Since the decree was introduced, the police have data on all users, and they can, at their own discretion, remove people from the internet or put them in prison. So, the 88-page PDF that identified the perpetrator was labeled as an anti-state action. An official statement appeared the document contains unverified harmful content that violates information security rules. Citizens are not allowed to run their own investigation. And what if the police aren't doing it? Doesn't matter. The citizen must obey the authorities. End of story. If you write about police brutality, about people who died in curiosity, publish an article criticizing government policy or do journalism, fighting for human rights or press freedom, in practice you are looking at 5 to 12 years in prison. If you really get on their bad side, you get even more. In December 2025, 2 journalists who exposed corruption in the party and criticized the regime were sentenced to 17 years in prison. The official reason? They've caused public unrest and harmed Vietnamese reputation internationally. This show of force happened at the exact time when the 88-page PDF caused public outrage and embarrassed police. According to the government, the document had no credibility. There were only viruses and rumors with no real confirmation. Anyone who downloads or shares the files breaks the law and will be punished to the fullest extent. And partly it's true that different versions of the file appeared. Some were infected, others had made information added, but in the official narrative the authorities say the whole thing is harmful. They ban citizens from read what's inside and they call internet users criminals. At the same time, the police quietly go to the crime scene named in the PDF, and they do step by step exactly what the online group recommended in that document. On the evening of November 28, 2025, police entered the house indicated in the PDF. They do it 5 days after the PDF went viral. They didn't reveal exactly what was fraud. Sources spoke generally about lot of evidence. The same day, police issued a decision to open a murder investigation. The next morning, Doan Wan Sang was arrested, a mid-level state official. Police also searched the office building named in the PDF. It's a big complex with 6 offices. Officials worked there for over 15 years, but in mid-2025 they moved to a new building. From what we know, they found 3 teeth under the kitchen sink, and in the septic tank and the drain, human remains. In the summer of 2025, neighbors reported a bad smell coming from that building, and local dogs were bringing small bones back to homes. Now it became clear why. They also seized the 2 identical Adidas jackets seen in the videos and the Oppo Reno 12, the exact model that received the password notification. That phone was used by the arrested official's sister. Officially, the PDF still condemned by the authorities. At the same time, police were boasting about how quickly they caught the perpetrator. On December 9, a deputy minister publicly praised the police. He emphasized that officers, thanks to efficient monitoring of what happens online, quickly found information about the brutal murder. They took credit for thorough investigations and lightning fast action. The deputy minister said these actions were an example of effective implementation of government guidelines. On behalf of the minister leadership, full recognition and congratulations to the police. I probably don't need to comment on that. The official accused of the crime had been actively looking for casual affairs on forums for 25 years. He developed an obsession with domination. According to the reports in 2022, he tried to order cut up human meat online. At the time of the crime, the most important national holidays was happening. All offices were closed. Was there also an act of cannibalism? There is no hard evidence for that. That cooking part could have been done for the video and it could have helped get rid of the body. It's hard to imagine we are talking about real event, not some horror movie. After the arrest, the official's wife resigned from her job. She and their 2 sons started hiding from people. Accusations appeared online that all of them knew about it and that one of son, who was in the army, helped his father. That heated the public even more. In Vietnam, soldiers are presented as a symbol of patriotism and honor, and publicly going after someone from the army becomes an action against the authorities. Did the family really know? There are two hypotheses here. On November 20, 8 days before the arrest, the official relieved himself in the online investigation group. At that point, he was already the main suspect. It turned out that for many months. He had been watching the group analyze his crimes. And finally he wrote, "I am executioner. Who is going to catch me?" He tried to shift the blame onto other people. He wrote that it's them who want to watch things like this, and that because of the people on the internet, the man died. At the point he wrote he invited anyone to his home who wanted to meet him. At the exact moment, a post also appeared on his son's account, a photo of meal and the caption, "It's only a few pieces of human meat." An hour after it was posted, it was deleted. Was the official's son involved? The post has the same provocative tone as the father's, but based on these interactions, to me it's looked more like a moment when the officials got scared. He realized he was no longer anonymous. Maybe he wrote that post from his son's account. Maybe he wanted to shift the blame onto him if there wasn't enough other evidence. You know, something like, "It was my son making stupid jokes," posting things like this in that group from his account and mine. We don't know, and to this day, there is no proof connecting the son to the case. As I'm recording this, the official hasn't been convicted yet. He faces life in prison or death penalty, but the investigation is expanding and the trial is still ahead of him. I think if that online group hadn't solved the case, the police would have never touched it. No one from the family was pushing for search. It was easy to sweep it under the rug. Some people commented that the man who was killed isn't the victim, that he wanted it. In 2001, there was a famous case of the cannibal of Rothenburg. In the first trial, the court sentenced the perpetrator to 8 years in prison, saying the victim agreed. In the second trial, the perpetrator got life. In this case, we don't know if the victim was mentally healthy. I know it's hard to call someone with fantasies like this healthy, but the fact is, he was never diagnosed. So, taking that into account, do you think the official should get the maximum sentence? Let me know in the comments and see you in the next one.